Hello folks, and welcome to OurGame with myself, Shane Stapleton, as always joined by Michael Verney and brought to you by OurGameRetro.com. Use the promo code OurGame and you get 15% off. Michael, you were at what game were you at this weekend? You were at a bit of football. You missed out on the doubleheader in Hurling.
Yeah, no, I did, yeah. I was at the Tailteann Cup game yesterday between Down and Sligo, and I thought it would be the better of the two games, and it turned out to be an absolute cracker of a game, and actually real high standard. And I'd say, like, those two teams, I'd say, would fancy themselves against Westmeath, against Meath, against Monaghan, maybe to a lesser extent in the All-Ireland race. But I think the winner of the Tailteann Cup will come out of that semi-final. I thought the standard was really... Shane, there was a fair amount of drama in it. There was one of the best saves I have ever seen made in any sport by Aidan Devaney. Eddie McGuinness went for a ball to fullback and deflected it. And the keeper had actually committed forward. And it was, I swear to God, like, I actually said it to Colin Keys beside me. I said, that's like Gordon Banks-esque. Like, it was unbelievable.
The one reaching backwards.
Crazy. Like, the one he saved in the second half was a very good save. But this is like, he'd actually committed forward. He contorts himself backwards and just pulls. It's like Banks, like, he pulled the ball back over the line almost. I might be bigging it up in small bit now. But I thought that was an unbelievable save. That was like probably one of the moments of the weekend for me.
Yeah, that wouldn't be like, the other semi-final, just for people who haven't seen it, Laois 3-12, Antrim 1-13, and the one you were at, that was Down 1-20, Sligo 2-15. Jesus, that red card, he really did catch him flush. I'm not saying he did go to, like, for people, again, who didn't see it, it was a contested ball that bounced. The Down player went for it. The Sligo defender came in with the swinging arm, and he basically clocked the Down forward. He had to go, but I'm sure he didn't mean it.
I tell you what, in real time and watching the replay from the other side, I thought there was no way he had to go. Genuinely. Because no matter what way I looked at it, it didn't look, you couldn't see contact made with the head or anything like that. Derek O'Mahony, or the linesman that side, obviously had a much better view. And like, it's unfortunate, like, RTE had the camera angle because they showed it last night on the Sunday game, but they didn't show it. And I suppose it was to do with the nature of Oisin Savage's injury and how serious that looked at the time, that they didn't show it.
Same with like Hungary last night against Scotland as well. I don't know if you saw that, but the guy
No, I didn't see that. I said, did the it's like when a horse goes down in a race, the curtains kind of nearly went up around him, did they, at one stage? Yeah. But he's okay by all accounts.
Yeah, apparently he's fine, but like, it was one of those ones where you couldn't necessarily see what had happened to him, so therefore you don't know, has this player collapsed or has he been, clocked? And I think he got clocked because the more I watched it back, he seemed to be diving through the air and he got clipped by the Scottish goalkeeper. But anyway, different sport. But again, it is the same point that everyone just gets a little bit terrified and you're not going to show the replays, obviously, to preserve the player's dignity.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is that it was a controversy. Like, to me, like, no way was it a red card from what I could see. Every replay of the angle we had until 9:30 last night or after said to me that that's a yellow card, and then you see it from the other side and you're like, oh Lord, he's hit him. And I don't know, and the way Oisin Savage landed was not good either. Now, by all accounts, I was chatting to the Down PRO last night. He was conscious leaving the pitch and he went to Beaumont and was getting scanned, so hopefully he'll be okay. Whether he's okay to play in the Tailteann Cup final or not is another story. But that was a big decision that, to me anyway, it looked like it was the wrong call until we saw that. But fair play to the officials, they were on the ball and obviously saw it from that side. Thought the penalty was a half debatable call as well, to be honest with you. And that was another big one. But there was some drama. Eddie McGuinness made that block on Ciarán Mooney. Mooney had the chance, basically. He was after coming. He actually played a club game on Friday night to get minutes into him, and then played a Tailteann Cup semi-final on the Sunday. And he came on, they needed pace, he scored a point, had a chance to get the winner. McGuinness got a deadly block. Ryan McAvoy was brilliant, had a chance from a 45, went wide, but McAvoy then was the one that won the penalty, and Oran Murdoch slotted it away fairly coolly. And good for Down to get a win in Croke Park, because that team had been probably needing a win like that in a tight scenario, beaten by Westmeath in the Division 3, beaten by Meath last year, obviously, in the Tailteann final as well. So they'll be hard bet in the final. Hard bet against a team that they clocked 8 goals against last year in the semi-final. So at least won't be lacking for motivation anyway.
I'm just thinking there about that player playing club on Friday, and then on Sunday he plays for his county. Think of the amount of back end of the county panel players at the moment that haven't played for their club at all this year. like the 26 is announced, and then within Dublin, you have 4 more backup players that can't be touched by the clubs on a given week. And it's not as if that's released to every club, so you know who's supposed to be in this backup 4 or not, or, you know, whatever. And like even Aaron Shanahan, a week ago, he was playing for Wolf Tones, and then he's out giving an absolute exhibition. But we'll come back to them in a while. But
on that, Shane, I know Man are out of the championship now, but Vinnie Corey actually let all his players go back to the club after the Kerry game. Remember, they were terrible in the Kerry game, scored 2 points, and Barry McBennett basically got, you know, he was nearly man of the match coming off the bench the day against Meath. As a result of that, he carried his club form in, and Craig Mooney played club Friday night. And it's funny, on the flip side of that, like Aidan O'Shea and Matthew Rowan both played for Briefly on Sunday after Mayo been beaten, and I think Paul Towie played club as well at the weekend too. But I do agree with you. I think there are a small enough cohort of lads that aren't in the 26 and are getting very, very little game time, and they don't necessarily come back to their club bouncing like they should. They don't, not in the short term anyway. It might take them a couple of weeks actually to get back up to, you know, proper game time, shall we say, and regular game time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, we're going to talk a bit more. We've touched on Clare there a little bit with Aaron Shanahan. We have a comment in from Brendan Rafferty saying, "Hi guys, hope you discuss Aaron Shanahan coming on for Aidan McCarthy. Is Aidan hurt?" Well, he came on, so I doubt it. Was that just because Shanahan had a good club game? Aidan has had a great championship. I'd actually say that, like, he ended the league absolutely brilliantly, but maybe it hasn't quite happened for him just yet in the championship. We're going to have Tommy Guilfoyle, former Clare hurler, on the show around 1 o'clock, so we'll talk more about that game then.
Hey, you're a brave man bringing Tommy on. Clare and all our semi-final tip out at the round robin stage.
It's so funny. People seem to think I have this problem with Clare. I have no problem with Clare. I didn't like them when I was growing up. I totally admit that. But only after the point of when they won the All-Ireland, then you're like, okay, we've had enough of you now. But so I disliked them for a couple of years. But like, why would I hate Clare really? I mean, generally over history, we haven't had a problem with them.
No, you're reading it wrong. It's not that you have a problem with anyone. It's that the vast majority have a problem with you.
Yeah, but again, it's just back to like, why would I care? It's just like, yeah, I mean, they're a rival, but like, we've more bitter rivals than them.
Yeah,
so
fair
I'm
enough.
not too fussed about it.
Just on Aaron Chandler that was mentioned there, I just think Clare needed something probably a little bit different. And even the fact that they obviously had a fair idea that O'Donnell was going to play a good bit out with centre forward as well, they probably maybe thought they needed something different inside. Like a defeat often happens after a defeat, particularly like it was a tough one probably to take in the Munster final because they didn't perform. All of a sudden, lads that maybe have got very little game time, and Chandler have been coming on in garbage time in games a lot of the time. All of a sudden now he's in. You know, lads get an opportunity as a result of that.
Yeah, so David Reedy, who didn't start in the Munster final, he got to put a farewell message out to his manager, and so did Chandler, who hadn't come on at all. And I remember, did I say it to you, Andy, during the show, or even I feel like I said it to whoever was beside me at the match, that you're going route one throughout this game against Limerick in the Munster final, and your best player in the air you're not using. Stockroom Tim says, you call 2013 a fluke? Yes, I did. But other than that, you're sound. Probably not true, but yeah, I certainly did. As in, I mean, that's a sort of paraphrasing the fact that it was an off year. All the top teams in the years before and after that dropped out, had off years, and Clare came in and won it. And they won a brilliant, it was thrilling to watch, as exciting an All-Ireland years I've ever seen.
Was 2019 a fluke?
Yes. I've always said that.
I didn't think you'd put the hands up and say it was a fluke. There's a difference between a fluke and picking up a handier All-Ireland.
Yeah, but like when I say fluke, that's exactly what I mean, that we didn't have to beat Limerick. The King Dongs that year were taken out by somebody else. So yeah, we won it on what you would consider an off year. Yeah.
That's grand. That's my headline anyway.
Yeah, but you know, like Tipperary have won enough All-Irelands and used to, you know, being judged, and obviously we're not going well at the moment, but used to being judged by the harshest measuring stick, that, you know, that wouldn't really affect our confidence saying, yeah, we won a handy one there. Sure. And like, I'm sure Kilkenny would say, oh yeah, we won a few handy ones there. But, you know, we're not precious over it.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to Cork against Dublin. What did you make of this? I was down at the game. I presume you were just watching from home, were you?
Yeah, I didn't make much of a channel. This was the most uncompetitive All-Ireland quarter final I've ever seen. I couldn't believe the the space that was being afforded lads in the ball. Fair play to Conor Burke. He picked up his 4 points from play or whatever. But Jesus, like I couldn't believe the lack of contact at different times. Now there was contact in the inside line. I thought Dublin got a hell of a lot of contact on the Cork full forward line, shall we say. But parts of the pitch where it was a non-contact game, I couldn't believe what I was looking at, to be honest with you. You were there. Did it have a training game feel to it?
It kind of did, but and John Conlon made this comment when he was talking to maybe the Clare PRO, because they had it up on the Clare official X channel, and he was talking about how sometimes when there's 4 teams involved at the quarterfinal, it can really lack an atmosphere. And I would say it definitely lacked an atmosphere. Obviously, there's big issues here in terms of the atmosphere. Number 1, the Wexford Fela clash. Number 2, in Dublin, there's a round of club football going on at 6:30 that evening. So
you're snookered completely, yeah.
So yeah, realistically, like if you're playing at 6:30 that evening, you're going to go down for a 1:15 game and then get the train back up and then be right to play a match. You're not. Realistically, you're not. Because, and then obviously, look, the other game was a bit of a washout once the red card happened, and we'll come to all of that stuff later on. But do you know what my read on this was? It was much closer than the scoreline suggested. So it finished up 5 points in it, midway through the second half. Let's see exactly when. But yeah, on the 58th minute, it was 23 points to 14. So the game was done more or less at that stage. And it was a case of riding it out. But there was a lot of stages in that second half where there was like 6 and 7 points in it. And is a game over at 6 or 7 points? I mean, you've an uphill battle, but it's not over. And Dublin got goal chance after goal chance. Ronan Hayes really should have stitched his. That was in the 69th minute. A ball had broken out from Danny Sutcliffe. He had a chance around the 21. And look, his confidence just isn't where it needs to be at the moment. And maybe having that injury blow during the league didn't help him. I remember he started against Tip and had to come off. You knew he wasn't right from the get-go. Diarmuid O'Dooling had shots. Donald Burke had attempts, and a very tame free, actually, from the 21 at one stage. And I was there thinking, right, this is back to 6 points. It's back to 5 points now. But there's nobody here to make it feel like there's actually an exciting finale here. Like there was a pocket of people up on the town end trying to get Come On You Boys in Blue going. But other than that, it felt like there was nobody else from Dublin there. Now, there probably was a few scattered around. But if there was 4,000 or 5,000 Dubs there and they got within 5 or 6 with 5 minutes plus injury time to go, surely the place just comes alive then. But like the Cork fans were bored. It was sort of like Gladiator, are you not entertained vibe. When they started to take off some of their key lads. They started to maybe fall asleep to some degree. So you had one side bored with what they were watching, and then the other team were making a bit of a comeback. To be fair, the Dublin lads were dying with their boots on, but they had nobody to lift them or make it seem like this game could be tight all of a sudden. Now, maybe just because I'd like to see the Dubs doing well, maybe I'm exaggerating that, but that's how it felt to me. I was like, geez, if Ronan Hayes had to stitch that, there's 3 points between them and there's another 4 minutes to go. So anything could have happened, but it just never felt like that because there was no one there to tell you that.
Yeah, and just on that, and you've mentioned the goal chances that they had. Like, had their free taking been on point from the start as well, and Sean Curry was very good in frees. But had it been on point from the start, they were well in it. Like, Dublin, I think Dublin had the goods of it. You probably have it there. Was it 43 scoring chances they had?
I had it down that they had 42 and that Cork had 41.
Like, Jesus. If they'd been up at 70%, they would have been very, very close to winning the game. Realistically, they left a lot of scores behind. It would have also left them in a position where they wouldn't have been maybe trying to force goals at the end, and there would have been only maybe 2 or 3 in it or something like that. But I would say Dublin saved a fair bit of face from the Leinster final anyway, and it was a much better performance. A couple of instances in the game I have to talk about. O'Donnell's block on Horgan at the start was absolutely outrageous. You're literally just waiting for the net to bulge. Like,
did Huggy get spooked a small bit? Like, he
shouldn't have had.
In 2 minds. He didn't know whether to turn and smack it or to bat it. And then O'Donnell is coming on him, and obviously O'Donnell's is as quick as they come. Like, so he got caught in 2 minds a little bit. Maybe
a small bit. Now, I don't know the last time I've seen one of those batted versions of a shot blocked either, to be honest with you, because it's on convention and it's not something where you just put your hurl in, you can see where the ball is or whatever. But that
he's too far out to be trying it though. Shane Dowling aside, you don't really bat a shot from
that's probably true. Like with the speed of his wrist and the quickness of him, if he just taken a conventional shot, particularly off his right hand side open, and put it to the right hand side, it would have been in the net. But Sean Brennan's save from Dalton as well was outrageous. Like, it was like a savage save. And listen, I know this age should always hit it to the ground, but the save always looks better. It's like you know what I mean? And Brennan pulled that. It was like Horgan save in the 20 final. It's full stretch, like at full stretch, like an outrageous save. There's a couple of bits of skill like that thrown in throughout the game, but like I'll be straight with you, like overall now I thought it was a drab enough affair, unfortunately, because that was like the 5th and 4th last game of the year, and you're hoping they'll catch light and be really, really competitive, really cutthroat, but it never really happened in either of them, being honest.
How much of it do you think was down to the lack of an atmosphere of the Clare supporter or the Cork supporters switching off, and the Dublin supporters they just didn't have a presence there?
Yeah, there's a bit in that. Like, like what do the Offaly 20s always saying about the 16th man and all this kind of thing. Like, and you know, there was just, it seemed like, and you were in the grounds, it just seemed like there was very few there to get anything going. Do you know what I mean? Like, you'd roused up more noise at some club games than what we saw the other day, and particularly if there were, as you say, if there was a big enough cohort here and most of the rest of them were spread out, it kind of just gets lost, really. Whereas if they were all together in one area, at least you're hearing a good whack of noise coming from that spot, and you might get some motivation for it or whatever. But that's kind of the nature of it, the timing of it, like the amount of people that would have had, would say, kids games going on that morning, or other things, because other things organised for like during the day on a Saturday. I don't know about you, but Saturday's my day to get a few bits done that you can't get done during the week because you're too busy or whatever, or it's lawns or whatever it is. And I'm sure a lot of people were in the same boat. And
there's Euros are on telly all day, and fair enough, Ireland aren't playing, but people are like, sure, look, I'll just sit at home and watch the Euros, or I'll have one going on GA going, or whatever channel it was on. To be honest, I sort of switch off what channel was the thing on, because they're generally at these games.
They were both on RT, and all the football was scheduled kind of mad enough. You'd 1 at 4, 1 at 5, 1 at 6:30. So the only one that you really would have been able to see solely that game would have been the last game, which in fairness turned out to be the best game in Derry Mayo too.
Yeah, very frustrating the way these things are scheduled. But just back to Dublin, right? I was looking at the team they named, and I think they'd named the same team from the Leinster final. Yeah. But when it came down to it, then they brought in Darragh Gray for Paddy Doyle at wing back, and the inside forward line was actually all Crokes, Whiteley, Purcell, and Ronan Hayes. And they brought in Dara Power, who played wing forward, Paul Crummy, and Mark Grogan, who played out around the middle zone, and Sean Curry moved inside. So to me, it just said, Micheál Donoghue said, right, I tried to hurl against Kilkenny. It didn't quite work for us. And, you know, you can speculate why it didn't work. Did they stand off Kilkenny? Did they, I don't know, just not get in their face enough? But they clearly went for a more muscular approach here. Like Darragh Gray on Declan Dalton, it makes more sense than, you know, and Paddy Doyle is an excellent hurler. And it didn't quite happen for him when he came in either. But he's a brilliant prospect. Hence why I had him down last year as, you know, a coming player. But they went for that approach. And to be fair, to some degree, it worked. And then you look at the matchups that Donoghue had at the back, which was Alan Connolly being picked up by O'Donnell and Paddy Smith on Brian Hayes. Worked great. And John Bellew did quite well against Patrick Horgan.
Bellew did a good job on Horgan as well, yeah. He did.
Yeah, and these were the sort of matchups that we had predicted last Thursday, and Dublin got them all right.
Yeah, no, they did, in fairness. I was chatting to Conal Keeney on Wednesday just for a piece last Saturday, and he just kind of, I could hear his frustration in just that Kilkenny had too much time on the ball. Sometimes hurling can be kind of funny, right? There's a certain amount of, you know, real nice kind of stick work and drills you do in training, you're working on your striking and that. But a lot of it, like, there's a lovely blend of that, and Connacht must have it absolutely nailed. There's a lovely blend of that and just raw ignorance and contact. And I think Dublin picked a team the other day more so of lads that were really going to get stuck in. Maybe not as good ball players, maybe all over the pitch, but they had a fair idea that they were going to get stuck in physicality-wise. It's finding that blend of lads that really get stuck in, and then it's one thing getting stuck in, but when you have the ball, can you make it talk when you have the ball as well? But I kind of think sometimes we go away from, like, at the end of the day, hurling is a kind of a raw, ignorant game. It's blending that mix with the skill. That's the perfect part of it. Like, the best hurler in the country is not the dandiest hurler. The best hurler in the country is a real skillful hurler who can win his own ball and gets stuck in. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's kind of finding that kind of blend. And I thought Dublin went more towards okay, we know what we're going to get out of X, Y, and Z. Is Paul Crummy the tastiest hurler, shall we say? No, he's not, but he can be goddamn effective if played the right way. Say, as we saw against Clare in the All-Ireland quarter-final last year. Now, it didn't totally work for him the other day, but they went with that approach more so than the ball players, and running through the lines maybe that they've been going through up until this point.
Yeah, and you look at some of the misses they had in the first half, and Donald Burke's brilliant, don't get us wrong, but it clearly wasn't his day, and he popped a couple from play, and he scored a free late on from close range, but very first minute, he missed a free from 60 yards out, central position. Then you go up to like the second or third minute, and Owen O'Donnell mishit one. He'd made a nice burst up the centre, but didn't get a clean connection. The 14th minute, Mark Rogan had a wide that he'd expect to score. Donald Burke then centrally from his own 65, a free, a miss. Conor Burke with a miss at the end of a nice move. And Conor Burke was very good. A move that involved Conor Donoghue and Chris Crummy. Then Donald Burke at midfield, a free centrally. Like, he must have been praying for one from the 21 at that stage.
Yeah.
And then Conor Burke, who ended up with, was it 3-4 actually? He had another wide before half time. So it was just the execution at the top end of the pitch. It just wasn't happening. And we've seen throughout this year, the ball just isn't sticking in the inside line quite enough. I did think Sean Curry had a very good day. He scored, was it 3 from play, and he knocked over a few frees. So at least Donoghue can go away from it and be like, right, well, maybe Curry is now my answer on the inside line. And yeah, I have to work with some of these players, try to, figure out how do I get Ronan Hayes back up to top gear. And there's still a bit of way, but it's not all a disaster. It does kind of feel like it, but I don't think it is.
No, it would have been a disaster had they been beaten by 10 or 12 and it'd been a kind of a limp enough display like it was in the Leinster final. I think there's a lot signs that there's a lot more to work with now than maybe you saw in the Leinster final. Listen, they were never as bad. They were never going to be as bad as they were in the Leinster final. Maybe they weren't going to be as good as we saw in Salt Hill either. It's probably somewhere in the middle. But it's a much better way. Like, they'll finish the season now and there'll be regrets on what they missed. And I think that's always a much better way to finish the season, where you're thinking, if we had, like as we were saying there, if they got to 70% conversion rate, what would have happened then? We would have been right in the game. If Donald Burke had been on the freeze, we would have been like really, really in the game. Maybe we would have been leading coming down the stretch. So it is definitely it's nothing. Like, it's never a good way to finish the season, but that's a better way than had they been beaten double digits 2 games in a row. It would have been a woeful flat way to finish the season.
Yeah, I sure forget about it. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about Cork as we go along, and I think we'll probably tee it up by doing a bit of a power rankings here, and this will be just based on the teams that are left on the championship. In the championship, do you see any reason to have Limerick anywhere other than number 1? And this is the third rankings that we did a while back. We had Limerick, Clare, Kilkenny, Cork, Dublin, Wexford, Waterford, Galway, Tip, Antrim, Carlow. We won't bother changing everyone from 5 down. But in terms of that top 4, what are you thinking?
I think we should go and start changing all the other teams as well, even though we've no evidence to change them. I'm only messing. There's absolutely no reason not to have Limerick number 1. And like, listen, to me, there's absolutely no reason not to have Kilkenny number 2 as well.
I agree.
Based on, and I know you like to go back to the 2016 All-Ireland final, and you like to go back to the 2019 All-Ireland final, but
why? What happened in them?
You would say collapses, and even one day potentially thrown in the towel. You would definitely say, but on most days, you know exactly what you're going to get out of Kilkenny, and like, they're coming into an Ireland semi-final now after best performance, I'd say, maybe since the 2022 All-Ireland final. Pretty dominant display. Yep, Dublin sat off them or whatever, but that was a dominant Kilkenny display. And there's like the thing I like about the semi-finals now, we get into it more over time, is that you favour Limerick and you favour Kilkenny, but it's definitely like, it's far beyond, not beyond the realms of possibility that it could be a Clare Cork final. Like, definitely not. Like, it's a live prospect. It's just that you know what you're going to get out of the top 2. The other 2, Cork haven't been in a semi-final since 2021. They, you know, they have to play Limerick, obviously. Clare are going for the hat-trick of defeats against Kilkenny in an All-Ireland semi-final. Imagine finishing your season after losing 3 Munster finals to Limerick in a row and losing 3 All-Ireland semi-finals to Kilkenny in a row. And then you'd say Kilkenny could finish their season also losing 3 All-Irelands in a row to Limerick too. So, but there's absolutely no reason, in my head anyway, to suggest why it wouldn't be Limerick 1, Kilkenny 2.
Okay, well, look, we have a comment on X here, so let's have a look at what Jonathan Main has to say. He has Limerick, Clare, or Kilkenny, Clare, and Cork. I'd probably agree with that, actually. Yeah, I don't see any reason not to have Clare as number 3 because they're league champions and they've beaten they beat Kilkenny in that game. They've shown over the last number of years that they're the team that can potentially take down Limerick. Maybe not necessarily in the knockout games and the championship games, because obviously the way the Munster finals have gone. I think that they're more likely to beat Kilkenny than Cork are to beat Limerick, even though Cork have already beaten Limerick. But do you feel like your sort of commentary around Cork has changed since, you know, the last 2 games?
Well, to tell you what, I would just have the questions that I would have had about Cork earlier in the year have probably resurfaced again, to be honest with you, because they had, like, I would say they had 3 good performances to finish Munster. Not good against Waterford the first day. Waterford, albeit brilliant. Did a good performance against Clare, obviously exceptional against Limerick. And they did exactly what they needed to do against Tip. Was not good against Offaly. Not good the last day. And even just like, say, take Alan Connolly as a case in point. Like, but I believe he was carrying a bit of an illness into the game at the weekend. But his form has tailed off a cliff in the last 2 games. Like, you've gone from scoring 3 hat-tricks earlier in the year and a hat-trick in the Tipperary game to been taken off scoreless in 2 games in a row. So, like, I would question, I'd have some question marks about their form. But again, you don't know, did they train through the Offaly game? You don't know, maybe they did. And it was, you know, there was a bigger picture inside. Did they train through last weekend? Less so, I would imagine. But they have to get back up to the levels that they were at in Munster if they're going to beat Limerick. You have a fair idea what level Limerick are going to be at, don't you?
Yeah, and then Rob Downey was a significant loss for this game because his form has been brilliant. You could argue that moving him to centre back has changed everything. Kieran Joyce came in and did absolutely fine. Ethan Toomey hasn't been seen since the Tipperary game. I think he took a blow to the head there.
Should have known when he was up for interview at the All-Ireland launch that he probably wasn't going to play.
But there you go. I mean, you and I would have assumed that he'd come into the team last week, and then we were thinking, well, will Kieran Joyce play or will he remain on the bench? And obviously, as things turned out, they had a bit of a rejig, and Luke Meade went to midfield. Kieran Joyce went to centre back. And like, we're big fans of Luke Meade, but I didn't feel like his form was particularly good in that game. And I'm wondering, is that why he's dropped out of the pecking order? Maybe his form isn't where it normally is just at the moment. But I think there's a few question marks around Cork now coming into this All-Ireland semi-final, whereas with Limerick, I mean, they've had all the questions. Even going into the Munster final, they're down Seamus Flanagan, and obviously Peter Casey's gone for the year in the full forward line, but they still find a way to do it. So the days of question in Limerick, particularly now that it's getting into do-or-die matches, I just don't think you can go against them.
They're back to Croke Park now as well. They've only been beaten once in Croke Park since 2014, is it? It's beaten once in Croke Park in the championship game since 2014.
Yeah, but they weren't there in 15, 16.
Yeah, but no, you know what I mean. Like, it's like the Kilkenny hadn't been beaten in Nolan Park since 1940 something when Galway beat them. Yeah, but they've only played about 3 championship matches there. But yeah, like, I don't know. I think Limerick are coming into that semi-final in a great spot, and just the fact that Limerick are the ones that will have the bit between their teeth going into a semi-final. They'll be the ones out for revenge on Cork. Not Cork were trying to save their season that night. Whereas Limerick are the ones, it's funny, like, I honestly, like, I don't think there's ever been less pressure on a team going for 5 in a row. I swear to God. I don't, there's more pressure on Cork. Like, we're nearly putting pressure on Cork to deliver because you're feeling like, it has to be now. It's kind of now or not now or never, but they need to come now. And same with Clare. Whereas Limerick are, not that they're getting away scot-free, but I just don't feel like there's as much pressure with the 5 in a row as I thought there would be. I put it that way.
It'll probably, well, actually, is that also down to the condensed season and the fact that nothing has time to percolate?
Maybe so, yeah. Like, I know people will give out or whatever, but it's obviously our job. We work in the media. Things do need time to percolate, to build up anticipation. Like, and I'm just saying, like, when you go from, let's say, an All-Ireland hurling final, that'll be over on the Sunday at 5 o'clock or whatever. You should be nearly digesting that still the next Thursday, but you're gone straight into an All-Ireland football final. Things need time to ramp up and, you know, build anticipation. And maybe that's why there's so few people at the, you know, those All-Ireland preliminary quarterfinals on Saturday. Like, really poor attendances, real poor attendance at the Tailteann Cup semi-finals yesterday. You know, a relatively poor attendance down in Thurles on Saturday as well. So, I don't know, people are probably talking with their feet as well, but I do think you need time to ramp things up and really get buy-in for stuff. People just don't buy in unconditionally. Some people will, but there's a lot of stragglers that need to be pulled in, shall we say.
Yeah, and again, I think it comes back to cut the league in half. And I don't even mind if you rejig things around so that most of the championship is on during the summer and start the, you know, go club then from maybe September until the following February or something like that. Don't quote me totally on that. I'm just saying I don't mind if we rejig it, but just cut the league in half, the amount of time that's been spent on it, and then let the championship breathe a little bit more. I think that's the biggest thing. We've 7 months of the year that are used for inter-county. That's plenty. Just use it properly.
And get rid of the pre-seasons and start the league earlier, and you'll buy a bit more time as well. Like, I have no issue with I don't have any issue with things going back 2 weeks. And then you start 2 weeks earlier, and then all of a sudden you have a month. And club players, the minority of club players are affected by that 2 weeks. The minority. It will only be, at the minute, like it would in hurling, it would only be Limerick, Kilkenny, Cork and Clare. Everyone else can belt away, and there's no issue there. And same with the football. There's only 8 that are affected at this point, and there's only going to be 4 when we get to the semi-final. So there's no reason for the vast majority not to be planning, and that extra couple of weeks shouldn't have any effect on them.
And we're both happy enough though with the power rankings there, are we?
I think we are, yeah. Like, it's funny, where if Cork were in the form that they were in at the end of Munster, where would they be? Probably ahead of Clare.
Yeah.
And potentially ahead of Kilkenny.
But when you see how Dublin and Wexford performed at the weekend, does that in any way change how you'd look at Kilkenny's form just now? And I'm totally happy with them being at number 2 here. I think they're absolutely the second favourites without question, and I expect them to give Limerick a brilliant game if they do get there. But would you slightly sort of take a little bit away from their Leinster run when you see how, I suppose, off it Wexford and Dublin were?
Yeah, a small bit. But it's kind of funny. Kilkenny will rise to, I'd imagine they will rise to Limerick. Like, they were in a right good position even in the All-Ireland final 10 minutes into the second half and faded off last year. But like, they are
games are 70 minutes after all.
They are true, yeah. They're still a fair bit off Kilkenny, or a fair bit off Limerick though. Like, a hell of a lot would have to go right for Kilkenny to beat Limerick in a championship game this year. But they're still deserving number 2s.
Oh, yeah, without question. Alan says, is there anyone outside the 4 semi-finalists with a chance of an All-Star? I had thought Chin, but not sure now given the competition.
He would have been top of the list. Conor Cleary did a good job on him at the weekend and kind of followed him everywhere, and negated him a fair bit. Is there anyone else from Wexford? Realistically, no, I wouldn't have said. Is there anybody from Dublin?
Maybe Brian Hayes for a nomination. Now, he didn't have a great Leinster final, but I thought he did quite well the other day. Remember when he ran down Dara Fitzgibbon?
Yeah. Do you remember when Fitzgibbon flicked the ball out over the sideline for fear that Brian Hayes would get it and scorch him? That was my reading of it anyway. And this is Dara Fitzgibbon, who is like, if Brian Hayes is the fastest in the country, he's probably number 2, like, realistically, like, he's unbelievable pace, but that was a serious run back, yeah. Crummy would probably be in the conversation for a nomination, I would say, too. Other dubs, I wouldn't.
He's had some good days.
He did. He was a lucky man to stay in the field the last day, Shano.
Yeah.
He actually went in after and went kind of nose to nose or head to head with whoever it was after. He was a lucky. When you see what Rory O'Connor picked up a yellow card for in the first minute, and you see what Danny Sutcliffe picked up a yellow card for, one is here and the other is off over here.
Hey, come here. Owen Downey, at one stage in the second half, himself and Sutcliffe were both wrestling for a high ball that came around. it dropped around the D or somewhere like that, maybe between the 21 and the 14. And you know the way Sutcliffe often catches with the right hand. They were both wrestling. I think they both lost their hurleys, and Downey ended up catching with his right hand. And I was like, that was a real show of defiance at a key part towards the end of the game. So fair play to him. I just think he's a class player. Like, he's added so much. No more than Rob going to 6. His going to 3 has been huge.
Even in the first half, when he kind of strode forward with that ball, and I think he was trying to score his first championship point. I think it was ruled out by Hawkeye after, but he was trying to take the game by the scruff of the neck. Even like, remember when Kieran Joyce won that ball, and just like there was a kind of a big fist bump thing, just because you're playing in a game and you're just trying to get other lads moving. Like, lads around him weren't moving. Even the crowd were kind of diluted as well. It was a funny one. But
30,000 there.
Yeah, but like, how many were
there?
there?
Ever actually 30 in it at any one time?
Not the colour of it. Because I'd say a good whack of Cork people left even for the second one as well.
Well, they certainly did after half time, especially after the red card, and maybe Clare tacked on a few more. Do you know what I was also thinking? Well, this is the way I framed it. I did a few columns from these games on patreon.com/OurGame. But like, just again, back to that point of Dublin, has a team ever been so within striking distance, but yet seemed so hopelessly adrift? Like, that was the way I was watching and thinking, like, why is there just nothing here? Like, because there's no one to cheer it on. It was so frustrating.
Like, scoreboard wise, it was they were relatively close. Like, we've seen Westmeath overturn a 17-point deficit against Wexford last year, and I could feel that coming during that game, even when it was at like 11. But at no stage the other day did you feel it. Did you feel it coming? It was just the buffer was there, and it didn't look like it was going to be moved by hook or crook.
Yeah. It was very frustrating to watch. Also, the Semple Stadium curse this year for teams, just not really being supported the way you'd expect. Like, the Tipperary team didn't really happen this year, and now Dublin, and just in general, the whole occasion was a bit. Isn't it so frustrating that this is the sort of stuff we end up talking about? You and I want to focus mostly on the matches, but you can't get away from the lack of atmosphere having an impact.
No, sure, it's what a lot of people are talking about as well. There's no point saying any different. Even Cheno, like, I'd have a big issue with the All-Ireland semi-final being fixed for 3:00 on a Saturday as well. I think that's absolute madness. I cannot get my head around it. Particularly
if you're coming up from the arsehole of Clare, like, that's a fair spin.
Where exactly is where? Give me like a couple of places, like locations wise, because people will not like their hometown or village be referred to as the A-hole of Clare.
So you're saying take
Quebec and beyond.
I'm trying to think where's furthest away from a railway line. So where would be close? So you can get it from Ennis. I mean, I'd never go in as far as Clare now, would you? I'm only joking. But I wouldn't really go that often. Okay, let's say you're down in Derry Nadiva, or there's actually a place called Cavan, all the way out on the westmost tip of Clare. I mean, how would you get up to Croke Park for a 3:00 throw-in?
Yeah, it's madness. No, like, I don't know. I just don't think we do be thinking about people really. And listen, we don't be thinking about people. This is to do with TV scheduling, and that's it.
No, but the more I talk to people at RT, they're saying, no, this is the GAA.
This is what annoys me even more. The GAA Go thing was been passed from GAA Go to the GAA, back to GAA Go to GAA. Now this is I find that hard to believe now. I find that hard to believe. So I shall make some inquiries GAA wise, and because I find that hard to believe now.
Now I'm wondering, is Tommy Guilfoyle down the A-hole of let's see now. Can you see or hear me is what Tommy is texting me. I cannot, Tommy. If you're watching, I can. You might run through a little bit of the facts and figures of the Clare against Wexford game there, and I'll see if I can get Tommy sorted.
Yeah, no, I will. Asher, listen, the Rory O'Connor sending off had a massive bearing on the result after. I don't think Wexford were gonna win the game at any stage, really. But he was a player in form. He was a player that was making things happen as well. Once he was sent off, it was just like, the air kind of taken out of a balloon. They were never really going to threaten thereafter. In fairness to Clare, went about their business quite professionally. We haven't really mentioned much about Shane O'Donnell. I'm sure we'll get into that. He was absolutely outstanding. Yet another Man of the Match award. He's definitely in Hurler of the Year form. Tony Kelly worked himself back into a bit of form. And you're kind of just thinking, I heard Brian Lohan get them a week off after the Munster final, which they probably need, not even physically, more mentally, I'd say, and emotionally. And they looked fresh the other day. And a key part of it was that a lot of the elder statesmen that have a good bit of mileage on the clock look fresh. Conan looked fresh, Cleary looked fresh, Kelly looked fresh, O'Donnell looked fresh. And they'll be thinking that they're coming to Croke Park in 2 weeks' time to play Kilkenny and set the score, and they're coming there with a fair bit of energy and a fair bit of pop and a fair bit of zip. They're obviously very close to them last year. The 2022 game was a bit of a write-off, but yeah, gonna be fascinating to see, because they kind of thinking with Clare, like they're gonna have to go up a couple of levels, no doubt. But they've parked the Munster final nicely. They look like they're re-energized, look like they're bouncing again. So that's probably a 65-35 or 60-40 game in Kilkenny's favour in the All-Ireland semi-final, but not much more.
Yeah, do you know what John Conlon was saying afterwards? Again, this was with the Clare GAA. He was saying there's a massive animal coming in 2 weeks' time, and both himself and Diarmuid Ryan talked about putting the boot on the throat of teams when they were ahead and pull away and really kind of ram it home. And they did do that against Wexford. I mean, the red card just totally changed it though. Like, well, I have to say, other than that maybe 10-15 minute burst, I always felt like, you know, there was only one winner. Oh, I think we have Tommy. Tommy, how are you?
I'm good, Shane. Sorry about that.
Come on, Tommy.
Hey, Tommy. Not great with the old technology, like.
You're all right. You're here anyway. Hey, Tommy. Shane was saying that how would people from he basically said the arsehole of Clare make it up to Croke Park for 3 o'clock on Saturday. Give me what are the places that are most remote in Clare that will take umbrage with him referring to them in that kind of manner?
Well, I'll put Fecal into that, so that's number one anyway. Lucknan, Jurek, Father Harry, Adam Hogan, we'll have them all. We'll be all looking for you, Shane.
But Tommy, it is going to be difficult for people to get up. Well, like, you're going to have to leave it ridiculous o'clock to get up for a 3 o'clock throw-in in an All-Ireland semi-final.
Yeah, it is, but isn't it a great position to be in? Like, but yeah, there's a lot of conversations about time starting and that. I think if the people that want to be there will be there, whether I saw somewhere today there, if it was back in Derek Lynch's country of Clonbunny under car lights, we'd be there. So there's no fear. We'll have the team there anyway, and then the rest of us plebs use Google Maps and we'll find Croke Park.
How impressed were you with Clare on Saturday?
Well, to be honest, Shane, I suppose initially there was a lot of apprehension and worry as to where Clare would return after the Munster final. I suppose the disappointing thing was the non-performance, or at least the taking on of Limerick physically. We just didn't get to that. Limerick bullied us. They overpowered us, particularly in our half-back line. Cut off the supply to Shane O'Donnell. So there was a lot of question marks. But I think as the game developed, now albeit it was made that bit easier by the dismissal of Rory O'Connor. But good that Kelly is back. Probably Shane O'Donnell has held his form, but it's still that performance wouldn't be good enough to take on Kilkenny in an All-Ireland semi-final. So lots of room for improvement.
Is there any, what did you make of the changes to the team? For example, Reedy coming back in, he hadn't started the Munster final, and then the impact that Shanahan had and we were saying this at the start of the show, you ended up going long ball so often against Limerick in the Munster final, probably not the plan, and then Shanahan standing on the sideline watching in, and you're thinking he's probably the best man you have for that.
Yeah, it was a strange one, Shane. The rumours all week were that Shanahan could start, and I think for Friday it was nearly definite. So a guy that probably would have been disappointed not to get more minutes. He only got the end of games, very hard to make an impact. And I suppose then maybe a slight change of direction and possibly cover for moving Shane O'Donnell out the field a small bit. So you had that target man to go to. surprised, I suppose, in the overall scheme of things, because you would have thought that if there was a change, Ian Galvin would have come in. But yeah, I agree. I think Reedy was hard done by, I think, to be left out of the starting lineup. I thought he has been very consistent all year. He gives us that mobility and, that hurling brain across the half-forward line and into midfield. So I think it was changes to be expected. Maybe some look for more, but I think, when you make changes and you win, you're always right. We'll see what happens the next day.
And he got, Brian Lohan has taken plenty of flack for getting some decisions wrong, the Kilkenny game a couple of years ago, and then last year with the sweeper selection, what happened in that Munster final when Aaron Gillan had a very profitable day. But in this game, he put Adam Hogan on Conor MacDonald. And I would say the quality of ball that Wexford put in never gave MacDonald a chance to... And also his movement. MacDonald was making movement left, right and centre. And I would say, MacDonald, you're bigger, you're brilliant in the air. Just plant yourself on the 6-yard box and ask for the ball to be hit straight on top of you. But either way, Hogan did very well on that. And Conor Cleary went out on chin. So he got his matchups right.
You're breaking up there, Shane, but I thought that it was a strange matchup. I thought myself, I would have thought that maybe Conor Cleary would have taken MacDonald or that, but and Hogan would maybe go chasing. But I agree with you, the quality of the ball just needed for a defender to knock the ball away and deny him possession. So going into the game, I had a big fear that MacDonald, could hurt Clare, especially with Chin and Rory O'Connor or whoever else was there. But that threat never materialised. As you said, the quality of ball just didn't suit the inside line.
Tommy, how much pressure was on, let's say, Brian Lohan and Clare going into the game at the weekend? It seems like there was a fair bit of pressure. In fairness, they delivered, I know they did an extra man for a decent chunk, but they delivered in good style considering the pressure was on.
Yeah, I suppose, look at Michael, I suppose we lose 2 Munster finals, 3 Munster finals. I suppose, patience becomes a bit short, and, then you go under the microscope, the management, should they have done this? Could they have done that? And there's lots of us out there that with different opinions as to maybe the team management and that, but look at our opinions don't count. And, I think they were under big pressure. Probably going into the game after losing the 2 previous Munster finals, I would have been worried about them, from a physical point of view. I don't think, and this is no disrespect to the Clare players and performance, I don't think we were as physically drained after this year's Munster final as we would have been after the last 2. The question mark for me was mentally, how would they recover? Now, we've recovered from knocks before. We've lost to Limerick. The first round, we've recovered and played. But there's only so much time, so many times you can do that, and eventually it catches up with you. I think probably, Saturday Wexford was an ideal situation for Clare to be in. I think they treated them with the utmost respect. They had a week off, which probably freshened up with things and probably let management have a think and players think about their own performances and came back and, got the job done, albeit not too impressive with lots of room for improvement. But look, at 2 weeks' time, I think the destiny of this Clare team and how it will be defined is on the line against Kilkenny, because to lose 3 Munster finals, 3 All-Ireland semi-finals, it's tough going for the supporters, never mind the management and players. So by hook or by crook, I think Clare need to win this All-Ireland semi-final.
Just on that, Tommy, it's now or never, isn't it? Like, John Conlon is getting a year older. Tony Kelly's had injuries and getting a year older. Shane O'Donnell has openly said he doesn't know if he'll be playing inter-county hurling next year. Now, easily could be. You know what I mean? They're obviously 3 key men. You don't know who might pick up knocks. Like this needs to be taken by the scruff of the neck, doesn't it?
Oh, it does, yeah. No, I think this is it for Clare. I think, we've been pushing in the door, for the last couple of years. It's time to kick down that door now. I think Shane referenced it there about team selections 2 years ago, the sweeper system last year. things like that. I think Clare just need to keep it simple. Look at Kilkenny have no secrets. You know, their forward unit is as good as what's in the country. I think we need to front up, go man to man. You know, and again, our forwards, you know, keep it simple, use the ball well, I think. And I think that's going to come down to the supply that we get to Rodgers and maybe Shanahan. Most definitely Shane O'Donnell is going to determine that. And I suppose the matchups have started already. And but I think from a Clare point of view, I think we must concentrate on our own team, our own style of play, not to get caught up with trying to counteract. Yeah, everyone knows Kilkenny at this stage, but I think we need to keep it simple, go out and hurl man to man. The key here, I think, is how our half-back line cope, because against Limerick, you know, we were overpowered. We got very little ball from our half-back line. Now you're coming up against, you know, brilliant players in Kilkenny. So, you know, I think the battle there between our halfbacks and their half hours will be key to the game.
And moving Tony Kelly out to midfield, is this partly with a view to, well, we know Kilkenny are going to play Mikey Butler on him, so let's play him a little further out the field and full time have Tony Kelly facing the ball and see how Mikey Butler likes it, maybe up almost as far as the centre forward.
Look at Kelly is versatile anyway. He drifts even in when he's in a position. He tends to drift out and that. And there will be a lot made of the Mikey Butler, Tony Kelly matchup there. But, you know, from Clare's point of view, I think, you know, throughout the Munster Championship, my own personal view was that we were lacking a bit of pace out there. We were lacking, you know, a bit of just a spark there to get onto a break and come out of a ruck, or that Kelly or Reedy or whoever has added to that. Now, by the same token, you know, Darragh Lohan and Cathal Malone, you know, are probably similar players. I thought we needed a ball distributing hurler out there that was going to hit our inside line. And as you said, you know, take the ball forward, and no better man for Kelly to be taking that ball forward and either supplying it or having a shot. But it will be key. Look at Kelly hasn't gone backwards. He's just coming around back into form, but I'm sure Kilkenny will have Mikey Butler earmarked for him again. You know, who breaks even or who wins that contest will have a bearing on the game.
Will Ryan Taylor be right, do you think?
Look at Shane, you know now as much as I do.
Now, in fairness, Tommy, hold on a second, Tommy. You knew Aaron Shannon was going to start.
The whispers. I didn't take it as a given. I went down to the sideline and I spoke with one of the Clare backroom team, and he told me, and that's when I take it. Anything else I take with a pinch of salt, but it was strongly rumoured. You know, and again, Shanahan would have played some of a league game. People saw that. We're putting two and two together. Was he gone off the panel? There was lots of rumours. I suppose Ed McCarthy missed out. They probably realised that they needed a change. Rodgers took over the free taking. Look at, I know nothing. I hear nothing. I have three clubmen. I have Adam Hogan's father asking me, am I hearing anything? And I'm looking at him and saying, well, if you don't hear it, how can I hear it? So, no, omerta is the key word in there. Not as much as a whisper comes out of the camp.
Tommy, can I just ask you, is this kind of like a sad time for you? It's, you know, the knockout stage of the championship, All-Ireland semi-finals, and Tipperary aren't involved.
That's a loaded question, Michael, with nothing got to do with a Clare Kilkenny match. Are you desperately up for a fall? Again. Look at, there's 4 counties left. I'm sure any of the counties that are out of it, Tip being one of them, would love to be in it. But just at the moment, the best 4 teams are in the semi-final. And, you know, yeah, it is a big surprise when you go into quarterfinals and you have Galway, Waterford and Tipperary not involved. It's a sign of change or whatever. And then I suppose, you know, you have Offaly and Laois coming into it, and you have the argument, well, Cork, Waterford or Tip would beat them. look, it's the nature of the format of it. I don't think probably, look at Waterford probably improved. Tip, in my opinion, may have gone backwards, and I would have seen them in a league semi-final there, and I would have thought, that they didn't look settled, and that was the way throughout the league. And it's tough to take. And look at Liam Cahill is a great hurling man. I know his in-laws, the Gainers, very well in that, and it's disappointing, but the results don't lie.
Well,
Is that
Tommy,
as diplomatic as I can do it?
Tommy, you're running for election soon, I'd say.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of people thought that I got in the local elections here, because Tommy Guilfoyle did get elected for Sinn Féin, and I had lots of people congratulating me, and I had other people asking me what I was doing with that shower, and but no, politics wouldn't be for me. I'm too honest.
You don't seem far left enough to be for them now, I don't think.
Which?
I don't think you're far left enough to be with Sinn Féin.
Oh, well, geez, I don't know. Sometimes am I left or am I right? It's politics and me now. A grain of salt, I take it with whoever. Could be more interested in Trump and Biden as an American citizen, but no interest in politics.
That's a story for another day. Tommy, thank you very much for joining us. We'll chat to you again.
Yeah, we'll see you again, hopefully, for the All-Ireland final. And Shane, is that a Clare jersey you're wearing?
Wexford.
Is that a Clare jersey you're wearing there? Have you the forfeit every time to come on here and wear a Clare jersey? How is it for you, like?
I don't mind wearing it because I don't see you as a rival.
You don't see it as a rival? All right. Yeah. Well, I have one going back to 1981, a Clare jersey. It's really retro from the Munster minor final in 1981. I'll give it to you someday if you'll wear it.
Oh, no problem. I'll wear that for a show. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, we beat Tipperary in the final, by the way.
Hey, Tommy, I knew I'd get out of you eventually.
Oh, Jesus, I promised myself I wouldn't get drawn into this. He can do. Oh, you can do it. You're the one that's stirring the pot, Verney. You are.
He's the puppeteer.
Huh?
All a bit of crack, Tommy. It's all a bit of crack.
Yeah, so things there. But look, hopefully you're on the way back. Maybe he might, pass out Tipperary on the way up there or whatever. Like, who knows what it'll be. Another year.
We're a bit of luck, Tommy. We're a bit of luck.
Oh, well, yeah, congratulations. I was talking to Michael Dignan there Saturday. Congratulate him. Great year. Great year for Offaly, and it's great to see him back. As hurling people, the more the better. And maybe if Tip come back, who knows what will happen.
Tommy, thank you very much. We'll chat to you again.
Thanks, Shane. See you, Michael.
See you, Tom.
Okay, brilliant stuff as ever with Tommy Guilfoyle.
It's funny, he made a conscious effort not to say anything about Tipperary, and then he couldn't help himself.
He certainly okay, delighted to say we're joined by Michael McMullan to talk about a bit of the Gaelic football from the weekend. Michael, how are things with you?
Not too bad. Any room for a Sydney Swans t-shirt, lads?
Not bad. There's a good look at it there, yeah. Not bad.
That's the crack.
Come here, big weekend of football. What's your first go-to on this? It's surely Mayo Derry.
It certainly is. To be honest, I did a wee bit of an adventure at the weekend, lads. Me and my wife went to Mullingar on Friday night, stayed over, went to the minor game across country and Castlebar. So a brilliant weekend.
That was the cracker of a minor game too, Mike. Jeez, the belter of a game.
It was. It wasn't as good as the pints and John Daly's on the Friday night. They were excellent.
So tell us then about the Mayo Derry game, or your read of it, because like the rest of us are looking at Mayo and seeing them, mess up late on against Galway, Dublin, and now Derry, and wondering like, how can they be so bad in terms of in-game management? And I'm not necessarily talking about the players or the sideline, but a bit of both.
Yeah, well, I have to admit, where my point was in the press box, I had really a good view of Sam Callanan going in along the end line. And that puts them 2 up. That's game over. And I remember thinking, Derry's playing that well here today that they'll probably get a draw out of this. I felt they would get the ball back. from that kick out. They just had something about them. But if that goes over, it's gone. You know, it really is. And I think the most frustrating thing from them lads will be that it was quite like Dublin's equaliser, a fisted point from nearly the same position, albeit the kick out was different. Like Niall Toner has probably just given another reason why he's a brilliant impact man. Like he was just on the pitch, he won the short kick out. You know, even when they took off Aidan O'Shea, the people in front of us in the press box were standing up applauding him. It had a real feel of, we've done enough.
Mm-hmm.
There was just a real feel of that. And maybe they needed to do what Derry did early on. Like Derry were probably lucky to escape a few black cards, if I'm honest, because like everybody in Ireland knows how open they've been conceding goals. Like Chrissy McCaig was probably lucky on the one with Aidan O'Shea, and you know Owen McAvoy stopped the run as well. Maybe that's what Mayo needed to do at that point. But because, and even when you watched it back last night on telly, there just was that feel of we've got there. And Mickey Hart actually said in his comments after the game, he thought that Brent Colley made a great decision to add on more time because Baker was getting treated. Bob too had come on as a sub. Toner had come on as a sub. And actually Rory Forbes came on for the injured Baker. So there was a stoppage there. I think it's 20 seconds for stoppage. You can maybe correct me on that. I think it's something like that. So there was time. But Mayo will be absolutely kicking themselves. And to be honest, I did feel Mayo would win it. It's the first time in 2 or 3 years I've predicted Derry to lose a game. But I just felt our strength and depth was nowhere near where it needed to be versus Mayo given so much to that Dublin game. And I have to admit, I just had a feel that Mayo were coming at the right time. But I think Mayo people are just fed up with that. You know, they've just had a history of just coming up short. And whenever you ask me that question, Shane, you're thinking of Kevin McStay's statement where it's Conor Gleeson's winner in the Connacht final. Obviously, the one that the kick out against Kilkenny for the equaliser, and then Chrissy McCaig. So it's a real common trend that will probably stick in a lot of Mayo throats for the winter. There's no doubt about that.
What did you think of the Cole Palmer-esque celebration?
I noticed it until I spotted Sports File later on, and I'd actually interviewed Conor Doherty for this week's Gaelic Life before I realised it, so I could have asked him the question. Oh, it was cool. It definitely was. And I think it was as cool as Derry's finishes. I think you would have to ask the players this, but surely the previous penalty experience is bound to have been a help. But they definitely held their nerve.
Did you feel that that last penalty should have been saved? You know, you don't want to be too hard on Colin Reeve. Actually, I'll throw that to you, Michael. I felt the penalty came fairly close to the breadbasket. Should have saved it.
Yeah, would have expected him to save it, to be honest with you. I would have expected him to, but listen, sure, there's funny things can happen in penalties. From a Derry point of view, generally, all in all, their penalties were taken quite well. I'd agree with you, Mike, there as well. If you've successfully gone through a penalty shootout, that's the best muscle memory you can have, like just to know that you've been through that, because it is a highly pressurized situation. I'm wondering as well, Mike, like what do you think of the turnaround now for Kerry? I'd imagine that'd be on Sunday. I would imagine so. Like, can they go again? They've turned it around now, scraped over line against Westmeath, were better against better opposition against Mayo and got over the line. Obviously played a cracking game against Kerry in the All-Ireland semi-final last year. Is the wheel turning again, or is it all going to come a bit too quick for them?
That's a $1 million question. When you ask me that question, the thing that comes into my head is Lachlan Murray going off the pitch. I was chatting to one of the Derry medical team. He seemed to chat about cramp. He did say something about whatever surface there is on McHale Park, it's sort of conducive to cramp. There's a lot of players going down with it. Brendan Rodgers was standing in the tunnel doing an interview with a big strapping around his leg. So there would definitely be a concern there. And, you know, it is a short time. Kerry are sitting back. The there's nowhere as famous as the long grass in any championship. So they're sitting there with that extra week. But the other thing about it is the momentum card is an awful valuable one as well, especially, you know, if you win and you win through hanging tough. But they'll definitely need more again because like Kerry are just coming along nicely, and they've obviously got a massive level of tradition in the county. You know, that's not to be underestimated. And the other thing is, and I'll go back to the point I made maybe on this show before, Derry don't have a great record of winning championship games in Croke Park. They've won 6 out of the 19 in their whole history. So, but if you push rewind to that moment when Kieran McFall was going through and potentially could have had a free late on, I remember looking up at the scoreboard and thinking, Derry can win this game. They've got a few extra panel members back this year, but then you've lost Paddy McGrogan. Niall Loughlin had an injury, and in an interview, Mickey Hart, after the Westmeath game, thought he would have had a couple of weeks until he was ready. By that stage, Derry only had 6 days. He wasn't listed on the 26th at the weekend, so it's hard to imagine him, you know, being a factor in Croke Park. But to be honest, I think if you asked any Derry person, they'd be take your arm off to be at this point, because going into the Westmeath game, they had no real right to be talking about anything else. Like there's the whole well-documented piece where you lose 3 championship games in a row. Do you deserve to still be in the championship? That's a debate for another day, but you would definitely have to ask serious questions there. But you know, to come from a point where they were hammered twice at home, you know, that word hammered, you can't use it off. You know, it's accurate. And the thing about the Westmeath game, Conor Glass was a wee bit deeper. That's where he needs to be. He's defensively minded. He was there a little more against Mayo, but I think when you're talking about next week and Kerry, it's that hunger factor. Like after 5 minutes, 10 minutes maybe max in Castlebar, I firmly believed Derry was going to win. They were just, when you see a team celebrating turnovers, you're in a good place. And then a couple of Colin Reap's kickouts were forced over the line, and then, you know, the main games come back, and Mayo's maybe thinking about not closing out against the Dubs, and they're at home. And another moment I remember was when Ryan O'Donoghue kicked it wide, and Conor McCluskey was right beside him, and you're thinking to yourself, you know, here's one of the key players that's been held out of it. So that were the big factors in the win over Mayo, but you're back to a blank canvas. You're back to Croke Park. Kerry don't care about Mayo. They don't care about Derry. Kerry are interested in getting to the last 4 and will have tapered their sort of preparations that way. So it's a big ask for Derry.
Michael McMullan, the last few years you're looking at Derry and thinking, right, here's a team getting to an All-Ireland semi-final, pushing really close, winning Ulster titles. Obviously there was the drama with Rory Gallagher, then Kieran Meena took over, and now obviously Mickey Hart. Win the league title, everyone's thinking number 2 team in the country can make a real tilt for an All-Ireland. And you talk then about the 3 championship losses in a row. Oran Lynch obviously comes on everybody's radar because, you know, he's chasing back towards his own goal so often. People are like, well, the bottom line here is Hart is in. He doesn't get the players. He doesn't get the system. He's broken what was fixed, we'll say. Are they now back to where, you know, how close do you think Derry are to being a challenger again? Or was this just a case of they found a way to do it here and ultimately they won't have enough?
I think if there was a 2-week break or a 3-week break, I would say they're bang in the middle of it again, because I go back to that word attitude and body language that, you know, that says a lot. Obviously, you need good footballers, you need good game plans, you need tactics, you need a bounce of the ball. But that, whereas you chatted a bit about Owen Lynch being out of position and no cover and goals going in, like that's black and white versus Castlebar. So 2 weeks, you dust yourself down, you sort of come down from the high of penalties, start to prepare for Kerry, come up again. but a week is a big ask. Like look at Donegal. Like Jim basically took the whole camp straight to Convoy after the game, and we were in Convoy doing the interviews, and they're walking out with ice cream, and they had the big ice bath session and all the rest, and they went to Cork and were beaten. Whereas Derry have to do that and go to a knockout game in Croke Park against Kerry. It's a big ask. And then
do you know what though? Do you know what? It should be, given you've lost 3 games and one after penalties, there has to be some advantage for the other team too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And then I suppose the other thing is you rewind the clock back to January in Tralee on an entertaining Saturday night when Derry basically had a full hand, and the Clifford brothers were sitting up in the stand on their phones looking on. But Kerry have obviously developed a lot since that. Like Peno has turned into a real addition for them, and that type of thing. And like at the end of the day, they are Kerry. They've got credentials that list a lot longer than what Derry have in their history. So it's a big ask. But at the same time, as it says earlier, a couple of weeks ago, you'd have taken this draw, you'd have taken somebody's arm off for this draw. So it's here. And like funny, it was one of the other journalists asked the question, can't remember who it was, to Mickey, about what is the factor, like, the extra time and all that type of thing. And he basically says, look, beggars can't be choosers, or words to that effect. You pay the price for not being top. And like I tweeted a picture just before the penalties saying this is a walking advertisement for finishing top of your group. As a Derry person, putting your Derry hat on, imagine it was the sort of tonic and the psychological boost that could steer you to victory next weekend. How amazing would that be? But romance only takes you so far, lads. You have to still go to Croke Park and win, and we don't have a good tradition of it. So hopefully it changes this weekend.
Just on that, and I throw this to you, Shelva, it would be like the greatest rise, fall, and rise again if they're able to do it. Like, it'd be phenomenal.
Yeah, a Netflix show.
and even within that, there's the whole, obviously, the Mickey Hart factor too, because you think of the amount of criticism he's had in recent weeks, and most specifically off Joe Brawley. There's no two ways about it, Michael. Like, he really was hammering him, coming so hard for him. And now, if he could somehow take you into an All-Ireland semi-final from where you are, that would be something else. And then the other thing, Michael, and it's slightly moving on, but Tyrone losing to Roscommon 14 points to 12. Would you have picked that out as happening before the weekend?
I probably saw it as a 50-50 game, if I'm honest. Like I think it was the Rossies' first championship win over Tyrone ever, or something like that. I think so, something like that. But like, both teams were going in without an awful lot of consistency, to be fair. And for a while, if you hadn't, for a while it was like watching the Sigerson Cup final of Dara Craig versus Dara Canavan. And there were some unbelievable scores in that game. To be honest, I didn't watch it in full. I only watched the highlights. I was too busy on the road trip around Mullingar. But so the highlights were like, there was just so many scores. Like, I think Roscommon scored all their points from play. I'm nearly sure. So it was an unbelievable performance from them. And like, Davy Burke was he was playing the Seeds mentality card quite a bit as well. And if that fits, use it to the max. Kieran Daly had a couple of goal chances. One of the lads who has really became a regular this year for Tyrone. If one of those goes in, maybe it changes things. Like, I think, it might have been 13-12 when Craig put over that real boomer to win the game. So there wasn't much in it. So it was probably a shock, but not a major shock.
Can you hear me there, lads?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I
thought we were having a minute silence competition there.
But then looking at the semi-final draws, or quarterfinals, I should say, Armagh, Roscommon, one of those two teams, Michael Verney, hasn't been there for a long time. He's going to be facing into an All-Ireland semi-final. What an opportunity. And then obviously Lowther there as well. The manner in which they beat Cork sensational also because of where it was in Inniskeen, tight ground. It felt packed. It felt brilliant. Cork probably just didn't do enough with the ball when they had it. But like, we're looking at the prospect of some unlikely teams getting into All-Ireland semi-finals.
It's mad as well because Mickey obviously left Louth to be more ambitious and try and win All-Ireland, and they're both at this stage. This is Louth's first ever. They've obviously won All-Ireland, but this is their first ever All-Ireland quarter-final as well. I would have a big question mark over Donald McKenny's goal. You're not, when the ball is in the air, you're not allowed to be facing someone, if you get me. It's totally dangerous play, like, and I've been pulled for it and I've seen it pulled. Like, to me, that wasn't a legitimate goal. That doesn't take away from the scenes and everything after. They were unbelievable scenes, and that's what happens in tight, relatively rural provincial grounds. It was brilliant. The fact that Louth's greatest day was on home soil in Inniskeen is a bit of a mad one. But they're going in. They're going in. It's going to be very tough against Donegal in the quarter final from a Louth point of view. But not beyond the realms of possibility for Roscommon and Armagh. You're thinking this is some glorious opportunity to get to the last four, and particularly from an Armagh point of view. If they somehow don't end up in the last four, I don't know how it would be an unmitigated disaster if they don't make the semi-finals at this stage, because the draw is really, really favouring them at this stage.
Michael Ella, though, like, Louth beat Cork, Cork beat Donegal's, ergo Louth will beat Donegal and get to an All-Ireland semi-final.
Can you even predict anything anymore the way things are going? But it leaves the draw very interesting. And I think probably the most frustrating thing today is that, and you guys will appreciate this because you're in the media as well. Like, it's difficult enough when you're a player trying to focus on games because you're only worried about your own wee window. But just as a whole, everything's on top of each other. Like the other night, you're trying to digest a penalty shootout. You're trying to digest, Dara Craig versus Dara Canavan, the potential of, Conor McManus playing his last game, a couple of minor games that went that needed coverage as well, and then yesterday, like, in Inniskeen with the drama, and there's just, I know maybe this isn't the place to talk about the game because it's like you're repeating yourself, but just there's so much happening, and like we've played for months and months, and now things start to matter. And teams are gone this time next week. There's 4 teams left. It's just really, really cramped. But I suppose it brings the excitement. That my point I'm making is it just doesn't last long enough.
Yeah.
All those stories that you're talking about there, about, the Louth story, first one over Cork since the 57 All-Ireland final, and, Sam Mulroy kicking the winner, and, a goal chance later on, Chris Oak-Jones didn't take, like, drama, but there's just so much, but it's all very crammed.
And the story over the coming days, or even this weekend, it should be a big Louth story, shall we say, how they've reached this scenario and building up for the week after, whereas you're building up for this weekend. Shane, I want to throw one quick to you about Ger Brennan, though, because I know you would have had a lot of dealings with him in UCD. He's obviously, is he head of sport or head of GA in UCD? Yeah, like, I didn't, like, it was a difficult task to come in and replace Mickey Hart, and obviously Gavin Devlin would have been seen as, two lads that would have really raised the bar massively in Louth. Just talk to me a bit about what he brings to the table, because he's done a marvellous job, you'd have to say. And like, yesterday was probably Louth's greatest day in maybe over half a century.
Well, I would say, first off, I wouldn't have known him that well before I got involved with UCD. But what I found is, like, really personable guy, very good at, just a really good people person. So even when I saw an interview with one of their players, I can't remember who it was, that full back after the win over Louth, and he was talking about, like, that what he's brought is actually, there's a bit of crack, and he's a funny guy and all that. Like, at times he's absolutely hilarious crack. So when I heard that interview, I was like, yeah, this kind of tallies with what I expected. It's not this austere regime. He's coming in, he's a player's person, and like, he's dealing with players from all over the country all the time because of UCD GAA, and travels to every ground in the country as well for Sigerson matches and Sigerson League matches. So it just kind of tallied with what I had thought. And like, he knows the game inside out. He did one of the coaching clinics with us before, and he was brilliant at it. So when I saw him taking over, I thought this guy's ideally set it up to it, or suited to it. So yeah, exactly what I didn't expect him to maybe get to this, but even just to take it on a bit more. I'm looking at the draw, the way it's panned out, and just imagine if Louth at some stage somehow ended up playing Derry in this year's championship after Mickey Hart flipping over to the other side. That'd be something, Michael McMullan.
That would be unbelievable. I actually think that you'd have to ask Mickey this personally, but I think it was the best draw he could have got last weekend, because on two fronts, he stayed away from the Louth baggage, and obviously Tyrone, with his links there. But even the Derry players, they seem to think the Mayo game really lifted them. But Derry and Louth, and that's there'll be some fireworks there, obviously, over Mickey and Gavin leaving, and basically Louth having to pick up the pieces. But like, to be fair, Louth are some example for everybody. Like, you chat about counties complaining about they don't have this and they don't have that, but like, they don't even have a ground, and they're playing some excellent football. Like, I have been very impressed with them over this past couple of years. They probably should have beat Derry last year in the league, and sure, didn't they went from a real tanking in the Leinster final to hanging tough for quite a while. So I think the likes of Louth, other counties should try and buy in or find out what the secret is, because it works. The progress they've made is brilliant, and some of the footballers that they have are excellent. Like Craig Lennon, that could have been a Jack McCaffrey back in the day, just running through that defence. Albeit those Louth black jerseys are top notch, lads. You'll have to get a few of those on the show, but they're a brilliant team. They're a brilliant team, and thoroughly deserve to be where they're at.
Who do you see as favourites from here, Michael McMullan?
Maybe still the Dubs.
Yeah.
Maybe still the Dubs.
But do you see a chink in their armoury, because they weren't that impressive against Mayo, but maybe that's a game outside of Croke Park and it wasn't do or die for them?
The line dropped there slightly. I think maybe just their defence maybe isn't what it. Their defence maybe isn't what it was under
Mickey Hart calling.
Yeah, Mickey Hart calling. The defence probably wasn't what it was, with likes of Davy Byrne there, Keane Sullivan playing that sweeper role. It's probably slightly different, but he still can't look past. He still can't look past those that impact they have from the bench. They just can't look past it. Like bringing on Jack McCaffrey and Paul Mannion, they're maybe not as big a favourites as maybe were a while ago, but like last weekend was full of that many surprises that at one point Mayo were sort of started to come across people's train of thought, and now they're gone. But I think it probably says a lot about sort of the reactional analysis you have a lot of the time, that from week to week people just change their mind. So it probably comes down to those consistent teams, and for as long as we can remember, it's usually been Kerry and it's usually been Dublin. So you probably have to go with them at the minute. But
and do you like the prospect of this Dublin-Galway match in the quarterfinal? I mean, if Galway could hit absolute top gear here, I think they could give them a very good game.
They could, and maybe it's the draw that they really want to get their teeth into. I'm not sure what the state of Shane Walsh's injury is, to be honest, when we're here. Maybe you lads know, but he went off. But like during the league, they were playing with so badly on their strength, and now they have the majority of their players back, and they're playing some. They're playing some decent football in a lot of the games. Like against Derry, they were pretty impressive for a good bit of it. They needed a bit of luck against Armagh. They're probably really struggling. Probably Conor Gleeson's kick out, give Armagh that pathway back into it. But I'm sure Dublin will certainly fear them. The only thing is, Dublin have came from drawing a game. Does that perk them up that wee bit? Does that give Dublin a cause to improve? As it says, you either win or you learn, and in that case they did draw the game, but maybe they'll pick the errors they made against Mayo and really ramp it up for Croke Park, because they've had the extra week that Galway don't have, and you're back to that same debate we had about Kerry versus Derry. So, but I still think the Dubs are just that wee bit ahead at the moment.
Just a quick one there.
They're the team I didn't want in the draw this morning, to be honest. If that's probably a good enough way of looking at it.
Yeah. Just a quick one on the quarterfinals. Saturday, June 29th, 4 p.m. Roscommon Armagh, GA go. 6:15, Dublin v Galway, GA go. So both the Saturday games are GA go. Sunday.
That will actually be clashing with a full round of Club League in Dublin. It'll be Hurling League now, but it still is clashing with a full round directly.
Yeah.
I thought you were being sarcastic on Twitter earlier, actually. Is that serious?
No, because I'm managing a team and we've a match at 6:30 on Saturday.
What's the story? What are you literally left with the decision that you have to contact the other club if you want to change the game? I thought you were being sarcastic on Twitter, because remember that happened before.
No, it happened and it happened throughout the league. It happened throughout the Leinster round robin, that there was Club Football League and Club Hurling League directly in competition with Dublin against, I think it was Galway and Antrim games. And then at the weekend there was a round of Club League at 6:30 on Saturday. So people who wanted to go down and support the Dubs against Cork, they couldn't. If you were playing that game, you couldn't, or if you were involved in a team, you couldn't do both.
Split season in its most pure.
Well, I mean, this in Dublin, if you're a dual player, you've got 26 league games between mid-February and the start of July. So how do you have time for anything outside of that if you're either involved in a club or if you're a close supporter or if you're a player, obviously?
26 league games, absolutely mad, Janie Mac. So don't be fooled to say that. I know the Dubs are top of the tree or whatever, but they have as many issues at board level with organisation as much as anybody else. And for Sunday, June 30th, 1:15, Donegal Loud on RTE, and 3:15, Kerry Derry RTE. So at least the Derry boys are getting another day anyway, Mike, which helps. 8 days, it's a big difference between 6 and 8 anyway. Do you know what I mean? But obviously the logistics of traveling to Dublin is a bit tricky as well. But yeah, there's going to be an uproar over the GA Go games on Saturday, I can tell you that.
There you
go. Okay. Well, look, I think we're more or less finished up. Is there anything else that we haven't touched on? Or Michael, have you any Michael McMullan, any thoughts on the?
I just bring to Mike really quickly about Conor McManus. That could be his last ever shown for Monaghan, not confirmed obviously, but if it is, I have to even say, even him coming back this year when it was less appetizing than the year before and there was retirements and things like that, he's the ultimate soldier, isn't he? And I know he's been a bit part player this year, but at his best, an unbelievable player. And to me, that's the measure of the man, even coming back, just to give it, even if he could give a little bit to keep the whole train on tracks. He obviously felt he could, and he did.
Yeah, an amazing player, and I think you always get players who can kick points, and it's nice to watch. But sort of the first thing that I think about when I think about Conor McManus is he seemed to always kick a point when the pressure was on. Whenever Monaghan were backed into a corner somewhere, he was the man, and I think that says more than anything. And between Clontibbert and Monaghan and the various teams he's played for down the years, he doesn't owe anybody anything. And unfortunately, if it is the last time we see him pulling on a Monaghan jersey, it'll be a massive loss to the game. But he definitely, I'll just repeat that, he doesn't owe anybody anything for what he's contributed. And growing up, he probably wasn't the star player at juvenile level. He just, he was probably small at underage and was skillful and stuck at it and turned out to be one of the game's greatest ever forwards. So a great story of progress. And obviously success, and Monaghan's couple of Ulster titles, do they win them without Conor McManus? It's hard to make a case that they do. So what a career!
And started off as a wing back in 2007, didn't he, Michael?
That's right.
Yeah. A final thing then, which we often do around here, Michael, is we do the goat of the week. So the player of the weekend. Who would be your football and player of the weekend, Michael McMullan?
Probably would be Gareth McKinless. I'd have to say he was the difference, and he probably was my player of the week. Yeah.
What about for you, Michael? Sam Mulroy for me to knock over that free in those circumstances.
I kind of waxed lyrical about him already, but some of the saves that Aidan Devaney pulled off for Sligo yesterday are absolutely outrageous.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the best saves I've ever seen. That was going to be a horrible own goal that was going to change the game, and he pulled off an outrageous save. So it'll be Aidan Devaney from Sligo for me.
Yeah, and then in the hurling, I go with Shane O'Donnell. 1-4, unbelievable performance. Michael Verney.
Goats of the week for me are the Burr under 15 hurlers who won the Division 2 Fela over the weekend. So there's a good crop coming. The last couple of Felas we won all turned out to be fairly fruitful. So I'm hoping this crop will be fruitful as well.
It's always about Burr, isn't it? It really, I suppose.
Where possible.
Yeah. Look, lads, great stuff. We'll be back again later in the week. Michael McMullan of the Gaelic Life, really appreciate you joining us. And viewers, we'll chat to you again soon.
Thanks.